This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites, like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies, like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee for your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
In each episode, our special guest brings with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our guest is writer, director, and actor Daniel Montgomery. His directorial debut, the heartbreaking and bittersweet ghost story, The Jessica Cabin, is currently available on VOD. Welcome to the show!
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're really excited to have you here. Because I saw this movie, I fell in love immediately.
Oh, good.
And I was like, I had to reach out to our PR person and be like, hey, we need to get Daniel on the show. So welcome.
Oh my gosh, yes.
If you could tell our listeners a little bit about The Jessica Cabin, though, in case they're unfamiliar with it.
Sure. The Jessica Cabin is a ghost story. It's a very gay ghost story on purpose. And it's about 2 ghosts that haunt this Airbnb-ish cabin in the middle of nowhere. And they're living sort of this lonely life. And this couple shows up and rents the cabin. And they kind of get infatuated. And they have to figure out a way to make at least one of them stay with them forever. So it's spooky, it's funny, it's sweet, it's very dark, it's kind of sad, and I love it.
Well, I love how dark this movie is, but how it's like, is it like, did you film like in Palm Springs or near Palm Springs or like in that area?
We filmed just past Joshua Tree, in a place called 29 Palms, like deep in the desert. Yeah.
My stepdad used to work on, I think, the military base around there.
Yeah, I'm sure it really feels like there should be one there. There's nothing out there.
Yeah, but I love how bleak this movie is in a way, and sweet, and it's bright. It is the desert. Like this is like daytime horror at its finest.
Exactly.
And and bright clothes too. Like I love everything is bright, and it really contrasts kind of like the humor in such a good way. And I wanted to hear more about like pairing production design with the script and how that process was like for you in making the look.
Yeah, I really wanted there to be this feeling of muted pastels, literally. Like my sort of color mood board was, I wanted this sort of dated, faded feeling that but also sort of like a quirky charm to it. And I just thought, let's go with pastels. I dyed my hair blue, like a seafoam greenish sort of blue, and I just wanted us to feel like faded, like 80s, 90s photographs of, the people that they used to be. And the script was originally written for a cabin in the middle of the woods. And we found this location. And for when you watch it, you'll see that the Jessica Cabin, the cabin itself is this bright candy red, like just otherworldly red, beautiful red. And I fell in love with it, and I rewrote it and to fit this sort of and I feel like it worked even better than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
This sort of, yes, just like you said, Mary Beth, like the daylight desert sort of bleached, everything exposed, overexposed sort of desert death landscape, right? But with a touch of heart, with a touch of color, because these ghosts once had such bright color, right? They were such bright people before they died, and I wanted it to feel like that. And there's an incredible amount of detail of each character's sort of color story and scheme and how they sort of tie together, and there's moments where we're focused on the ghosts and moments where we're focused on the live ones. And when we're focused on the live ones, the color is actually brighter, like in general. Like we bumped up the color. And then when it's focused on the ghosts, the color dims. It's very subtle, but it's definitely something that was that I wanted to incorporate just to tickle me, to like, go deep and sort of feel all of my colors,
That's so cool, though.
It's one of those things where it's like it's kismet, because like changing it to the desert, when I was watching this, it immediately kind of brought me back to like Beetlejuice, where they're stuck in this house, and right outside in the ghost world, it's like desert with sandworms and stuff. So like I was immediately like I was vibing with the look of the film, and it's funny to hear that it was purely by we got to film here. Like that's great.
Yeah, I went and looked at the cabin and sort of spent a few nights there and sort of felt it and see if it felt like it felt right, and it really did. And I'm so glad we had that switch, because I think it makes it stand out a little bit from another, cabin in the woods sort of movie. And I like the creative adjustments we had to make because of that. You can't get away with anything because you can't hide anything with trees, you can't hide anything with shadow. Like, just here we are.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think it does really match well, I think, with this story. But it's also, this is like so gay. And you said that. This is like a gay horror, a ghost story. And I love that because, again, we don't have a lot of stories like this. So I wanted to hear more about where this idea came from. And like from the outset, did you want it to be this like very outwardly queer film?
I really did. I realized I had never seen gay ghosts before. I had never seen them.
What the fuck? Like, where are the gay ghosts at?
where is their representation? So
we die too. Come on.
Yeah, come on. So from with a lot of the stuff that I create and write, like I come from a very queer perspective, and I will fight at all costs to have my lead characters be a range of queer characters. And always, it's just what I'm interested in. It's what I want to present. And I'm an actor most of the time. So, in some ways I'm like, well, what do I want to show? Like, what do I want to do? And my two best friends are in it with me, and it's Riley Rose Critchlow and Chase Williamson. We have acted together for many years, and we've done sketch comedy, and we did a pilot, and we did a short film together. And this felt like the logical next step was to make a feature. And I wanted to write specifically for us. And Riley's non-binary, Chase is gay, I'm gay. And not all of us had the chance to sort of authentically, in some ways, represent ourselves on screen. So I definitely geared a lot of the story towards how we felt, in some aspects, how we feel as human beings, and just have never had the chance to express. And even Riley has a moment where she speaks about her character's experience, and I had her. That's not true. She asked if she could put her own flavor on it to talk about, to make it feel more authentic to her. And I said, great. So she did a little pass on it, and then I tweaked some of the words, and it was so important to me to make it feel like. Why not? Like everybody should feel like they have their say in what this is. So, gay ghosts. That's really what I wanted to show. And what I wanted to show as well was that the horror, the darkness, the drama doesn't come from, oh no, help, we're gay, we're being persecuted. People don't want us to exist. I think that type of storytelling has value. But for me personally, like, I'm good. I would like to just show people living their lives, and just happens that these people are dead and they're living their afterlives, right? So I just wanted to show a version of that I'd never seen. It's just something I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
The last piece of it is, this is a pandemic baby. It came out of, sort of the creative frustration of existential frustration of what are we doing? We can't move. I felt like a ghost. I couldn't touch my friends. I couldn't see my friends. I was stuck in this place, right? I was listening to my Taylor Swift folklore, and it just like all came out of me in this cabin story, right? So it was perfect storm. It was a perfect storm of wanting to tell queer stories, including my best friends who are wonderful performers, and doing something that felt like a story that I felt like I had to tell at that time and in that particular location.
Yeah. So you brought up Riley, and I love her.
Yeah, she, they, her, them.
Okay.
Either one.
Okay, I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I loved her performance. It's so deadpan. Just the comments that her character would make. When they said that I want to kill this guy, I was like, this is great. And it just continued throughout. I loved her performance so much in this.
She's so great. And she has won some awards along the way for our festival journey. We've been on a film festival journey for the past year. We just ended that sort of wonderful excuse to travel and show the film, and she definitely got recognized quite a lot, as she should. I remember when we were filming, I was like, she's got to win an award for this. Like the stuff that we did, that we had some of her heaviest stuff, she had one take because we were running out of footage space, you know. So there's one scene. There's one scene.
Filmmaking at its
I know.
finest.
There's one scene that I know makes her cringe, but I was just tearing up and flying to the moon because I was like, we got it. We got it in the one take. We didn't have a choice, but like we absolutely got it. She is incredible. And I can't wait for many, many, many more people to see her and for her to do quite a lot more because she's insanely talented.
Well, and I also love how your film tackles like love between friends. It's not just about like falling in love, like romantic love. It's about love between friends. Like your relationship with her character is just as important and just as full of love and care. And I love how this movie examines affection from so many different angles and what it looks like. And I think that makes it feel so much more grounding in how love is. So you look at love and family in so just different ways. And I know that as queer people, we all have that experience of finding our family with these people who are our friends. And it's just, I always love how queer filmmakers hit that so well. And it always just like brings a smile to my face and seeing that on screen and like in the horror space.
I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, I really feel like I did want to show a range, right, of different types of characters, but also just as you said, different types of relationships. We get a little mother-daughter sort of thrown in there. We get best friends. Yeah. We get a relationship that's not working. We get a relationship that we're trying desperately to make work, but maybe it's not destined to. All of the range. I wanted to show the range. I wanted to feel the range. And I think we did that.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the mother-daughter relationship, and I have to admit that I was not expecting to cry. And that there's a scene towards the end that, like, boy, it hit me hard. That moment.
Yeah. Yes.
I was like, am I crying at 2 p.m. like watching this movie? Like, Jesus.
As I was writing it, I didn't realize that what we made was so heartfelt and so funny. It didn't really feel like that as I was writing it. It felt like kind of honest. And then like as this innately this sort of humor and heart comes out. And that actor, there's an actor named Melinda Decay, and she plays this role that in the scene that you're speaking about. She is this older woman, and she has I have written many things over the years, and I have an immersive theater company here in LA, and she a couple years ago, more than a couple years ago, 5 or 6 years ago at this point, she auditioned for our theater company, and I just thought she was the most incredible actor, and she was down to do anything, and I wrote her into this role for a show that we were doing, and I told her, I'm going to write you into everything for the rest of my life if I can. Like, I just want to use her as much as I can because I think she's so interesting and she can do so much in such a little amount of time. I also wanted that to be a little bit of a surprise because we see the same characters for a while, and then other characters start popping up. Towards the end, that you're like, there's life happening around us, and it's not all gay ghosts. As much as I would love it to be, there's other people in this world, So I'm glad that scene had an impact, and I think she definitely has a big impact.
Yeah, she does, absolutely. So I'm curious, can you take us back a little bit? How did you get introduced to the horror genre?
Well, little kid growing up in conservative North Carolina.
Okay.
I sometimes I feel like you're born with the horror gene. I don't think it's some ways I don't think it's a learned behavior. I think it just, you're born with it. It's not a choice. I'm born with it. And my brother and I both growing up always leaned towards the spooky, right? We always leaned towards the scary, and we're just Halloween babies. Not literally, but as children, we're February babies. But we loved Halloween. And I think our gateway to horror was Halloween. We love Disney Halloween cartoons. We love Nightmare Before Christmas. And truly, we're going to talk about Goosebumps today, but Goosebumps was a big gateway to horror for me. It sort of started it all, really. And it felt like a safe place to start because it was for kids, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of started with RL Stine, really. And I was such a voracious reader, and then it turned into horror movies. My dad showed me Alien when I was very, very young. And
same here.
Really? Yes, Dad.
Yes.
And
Dad's trying to bond with their gay sons by showing them Alien and
so
seeing
sweet.
that you like Rip Willie for very different reasons. I love it.
Amazing. Well, the sort of in for Alien that I thought was kind of sweet was, in addition to Goosebumps and Halloween and all the spooky stuff, I also really liked comic books. And I really liked, there's a comic book called Spawn, which was about...
Oh, yeah.
Superhero straight from hell, essentially. And there are a lot of sort of monsters associated with that character, and a lot of the villains were monstrous. And I had the action figures, and my dad said, "Hey, you want to know where those monsters came from? It started with this," and showed me Alien. He was like, "This is the first of those," and it scared me real bad. But
this isn't as fun as Spawn.
I know. I was like, but what I sort of, and I still have this feeling, and this translates to Goosebumps as well. It evokes such a strong feeling in me that I wanted to harness it. Like, I wanted to understand it. I wanted to get in front of it. I wanted to sort of tackle it. So I feel like I've been chasing that feeling ever since, in a way of like, it's the first, it really blew my mind. So along the way, like, not a lot scares me. Really, it doesn't. And I'm always looking for that thing that gives me that little special twist, that Goosebumps did, that Alien did. Alien in a much more visceral way than Goosebumps. But regardless, all of those things, I think, sort of tickled my brain in the right way when I was very, very young. And I've been chasing that feeling ever since.
Oh, yeah. So what have you seen? Have you seen anything recently? Or what was the last thing really that kind of gave you that feeling again?
That's a great question. And I wish there were an immediate answer that skyrockets to the top, Yeah. I've seen a lot of horror movies that I really love. But my instinct, instead of being scared, is to laugh. In a way that, like, I enjoy how ridiculous this is. So X and Pearl, like, I'm howling through those movies, like tears streaming down my face, like howling through those movies because I get the camp of it all. And when something is really like gets it, like, it gets me good, so I laugh. Hereditary walked that line for me of this is just brutally shocking and terrifying, and I'm like dying laughing. For me, like, let's go full bonkers, like let's go all the way. I was tickled by Talk to Me, which I saw pretty recently. Okay. I thought there were a couple moments, and have you seen Talk to Me?
Yeah.
There's I want to spoil some things, but there's a particular moment that I felt was there's two moments in particular that I felt were very extreme, and one involves a foot, and I just was so I was excited that we went there. Like, I was excited that we went there. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I'm just scared. I'm not sure I can, I'm not convinced I'll be scared again. I'd love to be, but surprised is something I look for. Like,
okay. Cool.
So, and that had some surprise moments that I thought was worth seeing for sure.
You should watch When Evil Lurks when that comes to Shudder at the end of the month.
Great.
Yes.
All right. When Evil Lurks.
Did you see Terrified, the Argentinian movie on Shudder?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I only ask because everyone says that. Everyone's usually like, that's the movie that scared them a lot recently because it's like a newer movie that's pretty fucking scary.
All right, top of my list now.
His new movie's coming out October 27th on Shudder, and it's even better, I think, than Terrified. It's even more. It's less like jump scares and more just like really fucked up for like 90 whole minutes. So
okay,
you want to laugh at like wild things happening and like putting people in danger that typically aren't in danger in horror movies. Let's just say that's a movie that will get you cackling.
I'm sold.
We're like a walking. We should. This is not sponsored by Shudder, but Shudder, come on, man. We're
Honestly,
like marketing the shit out of your movies, baby.
I love Shudder. I really do. I love it so much.
They give me access to so many things I wouldn't have. It's just
I know.
nice.
They have such a good range of stuff, and the categories get so specific, and sometimes it's exactly what I'm looking for. And then they have some classics like Halloween 4 and 5 are always on there.
Oh my god.
There you go.
Texas Chainsaw always on there. Texas Chainsaw Massacre
always on there.
Always on there. You know, like it's good.
It's
one of my favorite services, if not my favorite.
Mine too, honestly. Give us the money, Shudder.
Give us the money. I'm pitching you hard right now.
You really are.
I'm pitching you hard right now.
And they have the new Hell House movie coming out. Like,
I know.
The October slate of Shudder.
I got the email. I'm ready.
I know.
So,
but is there a subgenre? Sorry.
That's where I was going to go.
Are we the same? Oh, yay. One brain cell.
4 years we've like merged.
But I'm curious if there is like a subgenre that you find yourself gravitating towards more as a film watcher, not necessarily as a filmmaker.
Slashers.
Okay.
For sure.
Hell
that
yeah. Cool.
That is where I just find I gravitate towards. And maybe it's being a 90s child. I don't know. Like the I Know What You Did Last Summer of it all. Like I just find myself gravitating towards slashers. I love a formula. I love a killer. I love a strong look. I love a theme. I'm on board for some slashers. I love ghosts. Let's get possessed. Like let's invade some homes. But for some reason, if it's a rainy afternoon and this is how crazy I am. If I want to take a nap, let's put on a slasher. Like let's put on an old slasher. Let's feel the vibes. Like that's my comfort zone in a way. Is that something that I
slashers then?
My favorite slashers are what I consider the classics, which are Scream, Halloween, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Halloween H2O, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th Part 2.
Wow. You were ready. I love that.
I love the specificity.
Halloween H2O. It's a perfect 75-minute movie. Like it's just so great.
Oh,
it is so good. It is such a good movie.
And it gets better every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
A perfect ending, like
it.
Perfect characters, like perfect setting, right amount of fun, right amount of fear, right amount of kills, right amount of laughs. Josh Hartnett, Michelle Williams, Jamie Lee Curtis, LL Cool J. Like what else?
Yeah, what?
I don't think I could want anything else. Kevin Williamson, like uncredited, wrote it. Like, come on. Like what else do we want? Like it's my favorite. It's my
perfect.
actual favorite. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, first 10 minutes? Come on.
That's right.
I always forget that he's
Jimmy
in it
from
until I
Next
start
Door?
watching it.
I need to rewatch this for Halloween.
You need to watch it tonight.
I need to watch it tonight. I do need to watch it tonight.
The tagline is this summer's Tara's not taking a vacation because it came out in August. Like genius.
Oh, it's fucking amazing.
Boarding school? Yes.
Boarding school. Jamie Lee Curtis at the boarding school. Josh Hartnett as her son.
Like, come, Janet Leigh, the psycho car. Like, it's a joke. Like, it's just it's a perfect movie.
It's a perfect movie.
What's so funny is I saw that movie opening night in the movie theater, and one of my friends, she was so terrified at the end that she missed Michael getting beheaded at the end of the movie because she like left the theater and she's like having a fucking panic attack, and I'm sitting here just like, this is fantastic.
Honestly,
like,
I love that.
This is the best experience.
And you had to explain what happened. She's like, no, there's no way that's how it ended. You're like, yes, she took an axe and just chopped it off, and we went straight to credits, and then the Creed song.
Straight to credits.
That's it.
Well, as much as we could probably talk about this movie forever, or we should probably talk about what you brought with you today, Daniel. What's your Scarred for Life pick?
My Scarred for Life pick is the first episode of the Goosebumps TV series, The Haunted Mask. Okay,
so Haunted Mask. Okay, I'm getting like too excited and getting ahead of myself like an excited puppy. Sorry, but here's a brief synopsis. This is a 2-part episode. Carly Beth falls for every prank played on her, so on Halloween she buys the scariest mask possible at an off-limits room in an old store. However, little does she know that the mask has a mind of its own.
Bum, bum, bum.
Carly Beth.
I know. What What a great name.
We'll get to that because
Would you like to speak on it, Mary Beth?
No, because you have to go first.
Yes, so let's take it back to the very beginning. I know you said that you got introduced. I'm assuming the books for Goosebumps, but can you tell our listeners everything? How did you see this? Why did you see this? Why is this your Scarred for Life pick? I want to hear your horror story.
So, a kid who loved books, couldn't stop reading, and I loved Goosebumps so much I can't even explain it. I typed out a letter and asked kids in my neighborhood if they'd like to join my Goosebumps fan club, and I rode around on my bike and went in mailboxes and put in these letters that nobody ever responded to, and I said, call this number and we'll start a Goosebumps fan club. I collected all the books. Oh my God,
seriously?
Seriously, I
promise. That's amazing. I would have called.
I know. There's still time. Here, I'll give you my number after this, and then you can call me. And it's perfect. All right, finally, the fan club. But right around the time I got into the books was when the TV show came out.
Okay.
Perfect time, perfect storm.
Perfect timing.
What I liked about the Goosebumps books so much initially was the first, and I know quite a lot about Goosebumps. The first... I'd say 25 books or so are not as silly and funny and like goofy as is the reputation now that people think to remember Goosebumps as. But the original books, especially the first ones, were dark and heavy and scary and had this incredibly impactful book covers, right? By an artist named Tim Jacobus. Like scary, terrifying. Haunted Mask and Night of the Living Dummy were the most popular book covers because of their iconic sort of monster faces, right?
Yep.
Right as we were getting into it, right as I wanted my fan club to start, and the Goosebumps TV show was announced. This was the first episode. This aired, I believe, on a Sunday night as maybe that'd be wrong, might be Friday night as an hour-long primetime special. Mm-hmm. And I was visiting Grandma's house in Virginia, and little tiny me was like, Mom, Dad, we have to get home to Grandma's house to watch The Haunted Mask. It's going to be on at 8. We can't miss it. It's not like we could tape it. It's not like it was going to be on streaming or anything like that. We had to watch it live in the moment. And my brother and I have a twin brother who's also very obsessed with Goosebumps. And we just raced back home to watch this. What has been so impactful for me about The Haunted Mask in particular is because it was a primetime special. It felt adult, even though it was geared for kids. It had this feeling of like, I can be an adult too. I can handle the horror. I can harness this feeling. I can tackle this feeling, just like I mentioned with Alien. Like, this is for me. And it didn't talk down to me as a kid, right? And there's this moment in The Haunted Mask where the actor that plays Carly Beth, I believe her name is Kathryn, it's either Kathryn Long or Kathryn Short, because
it's
her
Kathryn
best friend's... So her best friend, Sabrina, is played by Kathryn Short.
Kathryn Short.
Oh my God.
I didn't even realize that until just now.
That is so funny.
And Kathryn spelled the same way.
It is crazy, right? So Kathryn Long, I think, should have gotten an Emmy for this. Like, is acting for the rafters.
She's acting her ass off.
So, Carly Beth is bullied relentlessly because she's, scaredy cat Carly Beth, and Chuck and Steve just bully her relentlessly. Even her best friend Sabrina, like, kind of is laughing at her at the pumpkin patch. And we, as an audience, just want Carly Beth to give it to the bullies good, right? And I identified with that. As Carly Beth, right? Like, I identified as, I wasn't a scaredy cat child, but I did feel other, right? Like, I did feel outside. I did feel bullied, and I was. So, like, we are Carly Beth, right? And there's this moment when she harnesses her sort of spooky power, puts on this mask, and can't take it off. She's at the mask store. She runs back to the mask store and is begging to the owner, like, I can't take this off. How do I get it off me? To add an extra layer of scar to this, the shopkeeper looks exactly like my dad. Like, could be my dad. Has my dad's face. Like, that's my dad. Like, my brother and I watch it. That's my dad. That's just my dad. It's my dad. I can't even wrap my brain around it. And it adds a layer of good scar, right? Like, it adds a layer of, it feels personal, I'm like, this is my dad. And, like, things are great with my dad. So it's not that. But, like,
Right.
There's this moment of Carly Beth coming to him for help, and he turns her around, faces in the mirror, and he says, "This face is your face now." And she screams like nothing I'd ever heard in my life up until that point. And it felt so real. It felt so raw. And this actress was giving 100%. And I thought, I just remember my whole body like lighting on fire and just feeling like this is like, I'm learning. I'm growing. Like I understand existential horror. I understand the symbolism here. Like I get it. I'm locked in. And like this is for me and this is scary and I can handle this and the rest of my life will never be the same. Right? And I became and I still am. I joked before we started recording that I'm wearing a haunted mask t-shirt and I have a haunted mask pillow. And I say joke. It's not a joke. I have it. But like It is something that will never leave me, will never leave my body, will never leave my brain. The wild journey that this particular episode takes us on, and the fact that it's the first of the series to kick it off, it's like my life began that night. That's how it felt. Like it just like twisted something inside of my brain where I thought like, wow, feelings I've never felt, and I can relate to all of it. It's a good scar. You know, did I have nightmares every night? No, but did I think about it every night? I sure did. And do I still think about it? Do I still want to talk about it all the time? Yeah, I do. So it has just informed so much of like what interests me creatively and even like, let's get crazy, but like spiritually ever since. It's just like this figure of this meek and mild girl, like getting her power, and it's this haunted mask. Yeah. And we can get into like details of the plot, but how she removes the mask is it's up to her to find a symbol of love, which is vague enough for her, like for it to work. But the extra layer of creep on top of this, the extra layer of weird on top of this is her mom. It makes paper mache art and made a paper mache sculpture of her daughter's head. And Carly Beth, like, when she puts on that haunted mask and she says it's time for Halloween, not only does she run around trick-or-treating with the mask on, she steals the paper mache head of herself. She puts it on a stick with a red scarf to represent blood and runs around screaming at people and screams at people and says, "This is me. This is who I used to be." I mean, gay icon. Like,
I was obsessed. I forgot that she did that with like the red scarf, and I was like, "This bitch is incredible. I love her." Like, no wonder I love her. Like, she's so angry, and she is finally getting to like release her rage and get to like be like a little monster. Like yes, this is why I loved her. Like, that is why I loved her so fucking much. Like, oh my god. So, did you read the book before you saw the episode?
I did. You see the episode? Yes. Okay. I read the book before I saw the episode.
Okay. So you kind of knew what to expect, but also seeing it is so different, I think, than as a kid, like reading it.
Yeah. And it also was the first time I saw something that I had read first, right? Like, it was the first time I saw, like, a book turned into a movie, into a TV show. It was my first time as a child to say, like, I read this, I consumed this, I have my own idea of what it could look like. And then, like, here's what the full artistic vision of it can look like. Here's like the big product can look like. And it felt so much darker and more tangible, and like the wet grossness of the mask. Like, it was nastier. It was way nastier than I thought it was going to be. And also the other masks that she has to choose from, terrifying.
What the fuck was that? I know.
Jesus. That's some Hellraiser stuff right there.
It is. I literally took a note that this is Cenobites. Like, it's absolutely Hellraiser. I'm pretty sure some of those masks came from a Hellraiser set.
Right? It's a challenging watch for a young person, right? It is, because it's scary. She's looking in the mirror and she can't take the mask off. There's even like wonderful camera tricks in the episode. Like, I just can't talk about how wonderful this piece of media is. Like, it's just, I just can't think of anything better, honestly, besides Halloween H2O. Well, like, it just left such a huge impact, and the sort of blessing and curse of that is the rest of the Goosebumps episodes. Like, some of them hit that peak, like some of them do, but it's a little bit all downhill after there. You know, like even Are You Afraid of the Dark? I was like, good luck. You got to compete with that. Mm-hmm. Like, good luck.
There was a lot of things I wanted to touch on. So first of all, you're right. The first like 20 or so of those Goosebumps books are like, what I fell in love with. They're really fucked up, and they don't talk down to kids, and they're not goofy. They're deadly serious. People are in danger. Like it has like a sense of intelligence and emotional intelligence for kids that I don't think I was expecting when I was first I guess read to, because I've talked about this a little bit on a previous episode where we did cover another Goosebumps TV episode, but my first memory of finding out about Goosebumps was my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Michaelshek, would have reading time, and one time for like around Halloweenish, she brought out Welcome to the Dead House, which had just been like released earlier that year, and so she throughout the classes would sit down and read this book to us, and I was enraptured, and it was such a hit for the class that it just became Goosebumps time. Like every time in class she would sit down and be reading the next Goosebumps book, because he was a very prolific author, so like there was a lot coming out in those early days.
New one every month.
Pretty much, yeah. And so like that was my introduction to Goosebumps, and it was my introduction that there were books that were horror that were written for kids. Because up until that point, my books that I had read were like adult horror books, but this was one of those cases where it was a book written for kids, but it did not talk down to kids. And I think that is what was so successful about RL Stine stuff. And I think that's why we're still talking about him to this day, why there's a new Goosebumps show hidden, I can't remember.
Around the corner, yeah.
Yeah,
October 13th.
Some streaming service. Yeah, a whole new series of it. It is still impactful because it does not talk down to kids. And so I love that is sort of like your entry point to it, because he was a good writer for kids.
Yeah, it's just enough where it's not a hard read, but it also felt relatable, and especially you mentioned Welcome to Dead House, like there's some dark heavy stuff that like kids are dealing with, and I read an article a while back that was during 2020 and I forget which website it was before, but somebody went through all the Goosebumps, I think they made it through the first 40 and broke down each book, and then there was a line at the end of what is the real world fear that this is tackling, right? And there's, like in Welcome to Dead House is like, there's a lot of things there, but it's like moving away from your friends, moving to a new house and making new friends. Scary, like that's scary. Yeah. They just happen to be undead, but like, in general, like that's scary. And like stay out of the basement is like a scary dad who's like works too much and, you don't have a great relationship with. And there's all of these things that are actually underneath the surface, and the Haunted Mask is such a great one of like dealing with, I know R.L. Stine didn't intend a lot of this, but, dealing with like, what do you do when you don't love yourself and other people are, it feels like other people are telling you that you shouldn't either, and how to sort of handle that, and how to, speak to your people that you feel like are bullying you, and what are the right or wrong ways to do that, and where do you find like unconditional love, like for yourself, like through your family, or just from yourself, like what is that, and there are those things that come like that sort of pop up throughout the Goosebumps series. There was the Fear Street series that came out as well, and there were the Fear Street films that came out a couple years ago through Netflix, and they didn't pull any of the content. Almost none of the content came from the Fear Street books themselves, and they were wonderful. They were fantastic.
Yeah.
But R.L. Stine, they said, there was an interview where they said with their Fear Street books, the Fear Street films, it tackles a lot of stuff like systemic racism, and like that's not funny, but who thought a Fear Street movie would like talk about that in a way,
right? Exactly.
But like R.L. Stine sure didn't.
And so they said, did you have any what were you thinking of when you thought what was the message you were trying to convey to teens when you were writing Fear Street books? And his answer was run.
It truly is. This man was writing books for so long and was just thinking of creative ways to kill people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he truly got to a point where it is funny, just like run. Like don't go out at night.
But he was like, I don't know, don't get killed. Like I didn't think about it. But with the Goosebumps books in particular, he started with the title. So he would always just come up with the title first and then figure out the story later. And I love that he's like inspired by like words, right? So he's inspired by, and like there's nothing more sort of like classic and like relatable than like the haunted mask on Halloween night, it's just like such a classic vibe, and it just is perfect. It's just, it's like a perfect thing. It's like a great morality tale. It's like Tales from the Cryptish, you know what I mean? A little bit for like.
So it's funny that you say that, because as I sit down to watch this, which it's probably, Netflix says I've watched this before because I saw it on Netflix, and I don't remember why I watched it recently or when I watched it, but I watched these two out of the episodes that they have. But when I was sitting down to watch it today, I was like, this reminds me of kids' version of like EC Comics, or like, the sort of like Tales from the Crypt, where it is a morality tale and there's a gotcha moment at the very end. And it felt very much in that line. And that's why I started thinking again about how what I think is so great about the Goosebumps is that they're not talking down. So this feels like Tales from the Crypt for kids. Absolutely.
It does. What this episode also has is something that only the hour-long or 2-part episodes have. Also, there were a couple of primetime Goosebumps specials. This was obviously the first, but it has an R.L. Stine wraparound, right? So R.L. Stine introduces the story, and there's like a funny button at the end that feels very Crypt Keeper, and he's so dead. And what's really exciting about that is, for me, as for us, the young viewers, I had read R.L. Stine, but I didn't know what he like really looked or sounded like.
Yeah.
Yep,
so
same.
To see him and have him speaking to me, I was like, oh, well, he's just talking directly to me, right? And then to have like this stupid twist at the end and have like the result of his parents watched it, I guess, with him. And he said it wasn't too scary, was it? The camera pans over to the parents, and they are like, it looks like they've literally stuck their finger in an electric socket, and they have white makeup on their face, and they look so scared. And he just gives a deadpan joke, and we're on our way. Like it just touches all the things that appeal to me, like these like silly jokes, but it does feel even more adult because he's like, hey, I'm just talking to you kids, and I'm going to show you a scary story. But like, we know it's a story because I'm introducing it, right? Like, so I'm making it safe for you, but at the same time, it's going to be scary, and like, let's have you laugh at the end. But even the very last moment, which is that twist of like, the twist is, spoiler alert for everyone out there, Carly Beth's brother puts on the mask, and it's like, oh no, it's going to be stuck on his face forever. But him wearing that mask is so scary. Like, the image of this little boy wearing this nasty demonic mask is just so scary.
There was moments in this too where it's like her in like a little girl outfit and the mask that's both terrifying and so fucking funny. Of just like she's like, what do you mean I'm in this forever? And she's like, it's like her little girl voice in the mask, and it's like, it made me giggle because it is like such a funny image of like a little girl in little girl out, like just like a young girl
little girl
outfit,
clothes, like
clothes,
wearing this,
and just being like,
big
help!
Monster face.
And it's just like, oh, Jesus Christ. And the mask really is fucking scary.
It's iconic.
Like when you see it, you're like, no, that's scary. That's a scary mask. That's not like
it's disgusting.
Scary because they're saying it's scary. No, like they did a really good job taking the cover that is like, the cover looks almost like a version of Jim Carrey's The Mask, but with fangs.
Yes. Yeah, it's like it's like a cartoony green.
Yeah.
Like, and has bright orange eyes, and it's scary, but it looks a little like, it looks kind of like a mask. And
it looks like a mask. And this one, it looks like one that you just put on top of your face, but this one is like a full your head like mask. Hood situation. And it is so much more claustrophobic. And
it is. You feel it too. You feel like when she's like, there's no line to the mask, you're like, I start like touching my neck.
All right. So let me talk about how this movie fucked me up now that we're talking about this. Because so I got into I was trying to remember like the chronology of everything because I don't remember it, but I just know that I loved Goosebumps because my mom and my dad got divorced when I was little. I lived with my grandparents, and my aunt had just moved out for college, and all of her old books were there. So in her room, I would read her old Goosebumps books because she had all of the originals ones. So I would read, I would look at the covers, I would read them. I think we got rid of them, which is like very sad. But like, we had all these books, and so I would read. I love to read. I was like an early reader, and because I was a sad only child of divorce, so I read. You know how that goes. And so this one in particular had stuck with me, and it was both the cover and the book and the show. And I can't remember how old I was. I know I was young, and I got it from the library because they had. I would watch Goosebumps because I would rent like the VHS tapes from the library.
Love it.
And it got to a point where I would have a reoccurring nightmare of the mask on my face, but it was first person. So I thought I was wearing the mask, and it was like I couldn't breathe and I couldn't get it off of me.
Oof.
So for years, I would have a dream that I was hurting my family wearing the mask, and I couldn't get it off. And I was seeing it through the eye holes of the mask, and I couldn't breathe. So
wow, let's dig deep.
And look, Carly Beth. I don't hear very much Mary Beth stuff, so watching this, I was taken back because I was Carly Beth. I was scared. I loved horror, but I was really easily scared. I'm still really easily scared of like haunts and shit. Like I am a haunt worker's wet dream because I will scream immediately. I don't know why. It's fine. I'm just a nervous person. So I identified so hard with her because I was such a nervous person, and people thought my family loved to pick on me for that. And so I felt it in my bones about the everyone not like seeing you as an easy target. And then at one point they have the pumpkin that laughs, the ha 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 ha.
Yes.
We had that fucking pumpkin, and I didn't I thought for some reason having that same exact pumpkin and then seeing it, I was like, this is real. Like for some reason, it feels very real. That pumpkin, like I just never, for some reason in my head, I never thought that I could own something that would be a prop in a movie. Why I don't know, but it was the same fucking pumpkin, and the laugh already freaked me out as a kid, and then it was in the haunted mask, and then she eats the worm sandwich, and I got terrified of there being worms in my sandwiches for a very long time. And let me just tell you, this movie, this not movie, but show, like, really did a number on my psyche in several different ways, and I don't understand it, but it's such like a formative thing. Similar to you, Daniel, though, where it feels like this is one of these like sources of where all my horror shit comes from. You know what I mean? Like it freaked me out and it stuck with me, and it was so fascinating to me, and I loved that. And it scared me, but it didn't scare me away. And it's just like
it scared me toward.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever I see it, I like get this like, oh fuck reaction of just remembering all that, but then also just like the power of horror for kids, and you can make horror like this for kids and have it still be incredibly effective, even though it's not like adult. And like we were saying, I just think RL Stine with these early books really hit that line so well. And I loved that about them. And I think like, you know, he deserves so much credit for such a generation of us horror fans, like jumping head, like feet first into everything. And so, yeah, this here book really fucked me up. Like it, and I never like masks freaked me out for a long time, like over my face and stuff. And I was like, I think one of the scariest parts was when at the end and he's like, your mask is, what do you mean? Why is that mask still on your face? And I was like, oh my God. And then he's like, just joking. And I was like, I hate you. I hate you so much. I was so mad.
What's so wonderfully effective about that moment is we as the audience see that Carly Beth is not wearing the mask, right? And her younger brother comes up and is like, why are you still wearing the mask? But we as the audience are so in it still that we're like, oh no, is she? Like, and they even like cue it up with the score, and then she like looks in the mirror, and we're like, but we don't need her to look in the mirror because we can see that she's not wearing the mask. But we are so invested, and we are so traumatized about what could happen with the mask, and we're like, maybe there'll be some twist, you know? There is also that weird element of, the weird element of the paper mache head that lives on the mantle of the house that just smiles by itself, right?
Yeah. Who knows? You know what?
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Masks are cursed in this entire universe, I guess.
And like, please just help me later. Like, it asks her to help. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there.
Mom, you know what? I bet you the mom and that guy are connected, and they fought monsters or demons or whatever. And go on.
Where's that prequel?
I know. Where's the haunted mask prequel?
The shopkeeper is actually Carly Beth's dad. Her dad isn't in Chicago on a business trip. It's all a lie. Like, it's that's her dad. But also, can we talk about the shopkeeper for a second? Like,
yes, please.
The explanation for these masks is because he didn't like either himself or like his literal face and was making masks to cover him. But because he was so rotten on the inside, it like caused the masks to deform and then like just became actual masks. It doesn't make any sense, and I absolutely love it. And there's a moment where he reveals that he is wearing a mask, even though it's my dad's face that he's wearing. And he said, and he says, "Oh, I don't dare show you what's underneath, like this mask, because you think you don't like yourself. You shouldn't see what my face is like underneath this mask." That's really gonna fuck you up as a kid. You know, you're like, can I trust anybody? Like, this guy's wearing, and he has like weird bumps on the side of his face. He's like, because it's turning rotten because of what's inside of me. And it's just like layers in this. There are layers of terror in this. You know, you're like, I can't trust the man that runs the shop because he's actually has like, his face is a mask. He killed
these people. Like, what did he do to these masks?
What is it? There's so many questions that I know R.L. Stine had no answers to, and that also fills me with a lot of joy.
I love that he is like kind of like an old white guy who's like, I don't know, it sounded scary, and we're like, what's the deeper meaning about finding your confidence as a young girl? And he's like, what?
He's like, I don't know.
He's like, who are you? And again, good for him. But again, we talked about the bullying thing. Like when she has the mask on and is like going around and like throwing things around and going like, "Oh, sorry, I scared your kid." Like something about that to me was so exciting too, because
I loved it.
Talked about you could be a gremlin, and I was never like thought I was allowed to be a little gremlin, and my friends always fucked with me because again I was like the nervous, anxious, squirrely one, and so. Was like, I want to fuck with my friends.
You get to live vicariously through Carly Beth, right?
I know.
Like,
exactly.
She almost had my name.
Almost. Like you get to see her rage, and also like it's Halloween. So like she also has the excuse, right? She can also say like, it's Halloween, I could be whoever I want tonight. Like there's the power of Halloween there, right? It's like it's giving you the permission to be yourself that night, fully yourself, or to be somebody completely different if you want. And like obviously it takes it to an extreme, but we love to watch that. We love to see it.
She was almost a duck. I love that her mom got her the duck costume, and she was like, okay, and she was like kind of into it. It broke my heart
as a kid.
And I know. I was like, oh, you wanted to be a duck? Because I was a fish. I was a fish when I was a kid. I had the cutest little fish outfit, and I was a fish many years. And in kindergarten, my bully made fun of me, and she was a black cat, and she said, "I'm gonna eat you because you're a fish." And for some reason, to me as a kindergartner, that was the meanest thing you could have said to me. Now I'm like,
I think it is.
And I was so mad, but it was like when I say fish, I mean like I had this like hood, and it was a huge googly eyes, and like I was a fucking fish, and I loved that
gorgeous.
Shit. It was so cute.
But Mary Beth, Sabrina is dressed as a cat in this.
Oh my god,
she is a cat. Sabrina's not the best friend, really.
She really isn't.
Oh my god, she's just like, well, you are kind of a scaredy cat. Fuck you, Sabrina. Have a backbone. Come on now.
I don't think Sabrina has anything going on inside her brain. I don't think she's had a single thought. She's just there.
The same name as Kathryn Long.
Yeah. Is it Kathryn Long and Kathryn Short? Can you believe
that?
Yes,
that's so fucking funny.
That is so wild to me to find out. But, okay, so I remember buying this book after my teacher had read it to me, because this one and Welcome to the Dead House were like my favorites.
Yeah,
when I had first read them or had them read to me, and I remember buying this one, and I would read it a lot. Like this was my catnip, and so even though I was like, it came out in 95, the TV show, right? Yeah, so I would have been 14 when it came out, and I was sort of getting out of the age of like reading the kids' books and watching kiddie stuff, but like I do remember sitting down when this aired and watching this show as well, because it was like such a nostalgic for me, even though it only been like a few years, but it was something like, this is what I would read as a kid, and now I'm a teenager, and I'm so like I do remember sitting down and watching this and really being enamored with it, even though I was at that age where it's like, ugh, kid stuff, right? But there's just something about it. It just works. And I did want to go back to something you said, Daniel, about like the kind of mythology. I love that there is a mythology here that we only get bits and pieces of. Like the very beginning when Carly is first walking through the store and the storekeep is on the phone talking with someone, he's like, "Did you wire the money to Paraguay?" Like he's just saying all this random stuff. Like, what is he doing?
He's like screaming about, he's like, "I don't care about customers." And he's like, I need this chemical shipped in, because he like just has to keep like, he needs something for his new faces. Like, it's just weird. It's dark.
Once you realize that later, just the idea that like, no, he is running out of time, and he knows this face is going to fall off of him or something. You don't really know, but you know something bad is going to happen with it. He's going to need a new one. And so like that in alone is like that. There's little hints about something bigger here that I love. And you're right. RL Stine probably has no idea what the behind the story was. Like, he probably doesn't have an elaborate backstory for everything, but there's enough here that is, as a viewer, I'm just like, okay, but what is the story behind it?
Yes.
I need to know more.
It feels even though it's not, it feels fleshed out and feels like there's a whole world going on, right? Did y'all watch Haunted Mask 2 or read Haunted Mask 2?
I read it. I don't remember anything about it.
It also was a primetime hour-long 2-part special with a wraparound from R.L. Stine, and the same actors are in it.
I was going to ask, was
Karina's in it. Chuck and Steve are in it, except they replace Steve. They recast Steve, and it's not as good. It's not as fun, but it does expand on the mythology a little bit. The shopkeeper is also in it, and there's a different mask, and of course, Steve gets the mask. And the mask is not as scary, and it's just like an old man mask.
That's
and he puts
right.
on and he becomes old.
Yes. Okay. I remember I've read it, but I wasn't as excited about it because it wasn't it didn't scare me as much. It just,
and there's the book is better than the TV episode, and the book has this wild sort of ending where the mask just wants to be reunited with it also was part of a suit, like an old man suit. And when you reunite the suit with the mask, the suit comes to life and does like a little spidery dance and like spins away with the mask, which I wanted to see, but the episode's not like that.
I fucking love Goosebumps and like lit like that, because you do have a little bit more freedom to be a little bit more whimsical than I think in adult horror, and you can be a little bit more fun, and you can be a little bit sillier, and I love that. And I think so often like kid horror, it gets dismissed, but it's like actually a lot of people make some really fun stuff and like get to have a lot of fun and can do some really weird stuff that they wouldn't get to do for adults. So
make some wild swings that also don't have to we don't need a ton of backstory or for it to make a lot of sense. Like it can just be like sort of like the solve can be like some sort of magic or like some spell or some magic words. Like there doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be anything more than that. Like there doesn't have to be some tragic backstory from the 60s about, like it's just like, I don't know. It's like there doesn't have to be any of that. It's just these are the rules.
It's like a good scary story. It's not complicated. It's not trying to be overcomplicated. It's just trying to be like a good spooky story that'll scare kids. There isn't elaborate. There is no need for like elaborate stories. Just good characters and a scary mask.
Yeah, it's like it's foundational storytelling for, for kids, and it's fun. Like
it's fun.
They're so fun and so easy to read, and that translated in the TV show. Like the TV show is so fun and easy to watch. It's like short, sweet episodes, and I love that they have these sort of tent poles along the way that are like Haunted Mask, like Night of the Living Dummy 3, that are like Werewolf Fever Swamp, that are like darker and bigger and can like handle it.
The werewolf one.
Yeah, I was just watching that one earlier, so it's just like. It's when it gets. I'm a crazy person, but when it gets over 90 degrees here in LA, I put on Werewolf Fever Swamp because it feels hot and sweaty and makes the heat a little more bearable.
God!
I love that.
So I looked at my phone today. I was like, it's 94 degrees. We're putting on Werewolf Fever Swamp.
Fuck yeah!
That's amazing.
That's so good.
What I do love watching this on Netflix, and I'm guessing on when it was re-aired, is the fact that. This was an hour long episode. It was 40 minutes or whatever, but like it was an hour of TV, and they cut it at the most ridiculous spot where like it's supposed to be a cliffhanger, but is literally in the middle of her saying "shut up, shut up, shut up," yelling at Sabrina, and then it just
choking Sabrina, and then it just immediately cut to credits. And then we come back and she like stops choking. It's like, I'm just kidding,
I'm just kidding. But it's such a like abrupt moment that like just goes to credits. There's no lingering on it. It's just all of a sudden, yep, she's strangling her and we're out. It's 22 minutes. We're done.
Bye.
I know sometimes when making TV series like that or movies like that, obviously sometimes the filmmakers don't get the choice of where the commercial breaks are going to be. Sometimes they're built in, and then sometimes they just like, the network's like, it's going to be here, just got to make it work, and it definitely feels like that for that one.
Absolutely. Watching this as an adult, what I love is that this is kind of like baby's first body horror, because we have that moment we talked a little bit about how Kathryn Long should have gotten an Emmy for this, but there is this moment.
I really think so.
I do too, because there's this moment where she is looking at herself in the mirror and she's like, "Those eyes in the mirror, they're not my eyes. Those aren't my eyes. Where are my eyes?"
What the fuck?
I'm just
like, why are you an adult too? Like you said, Terry.
I was getting anxious as I was sitting there watching this. Like, how horrifying would that be to look in the mirror and be like, "Wait, those eyes don't belong to me." Like that.
Yes.
Existential body horror, like a whole lot going in here, even without like just the fact that she can't get the mask off. The fact that it is changing her from the inside potentially is horrifying.
Yes. And Kathryn delivers. Like it's because of that performance that you were like, wait, is that her eye color? Like, is that her eyes? Like, is she changing?
Yep.
Like, and the way that scene is shot is straight on POV of her in the mirror. And we follow her head turn to the camera to look directly at Sabrina and then back to the mirror. Now, how did they do? I've watched it so many times. I'm like, how did they do that? Like, you're looking directly into a mirror and then you turn and then go back to the mirror and leave. I'm like, this is genius filmmaking. In my brain, I'm like, how? Like, it feels so, you feel like you're right there. And you kind of overlook the fact that this is like, there's also the moment she puts on the mask, I think, for the second time, and it like gets sucked into her skin and face.
Yes.
Like, you see it.
Yes.
How did they do that?
I know.
Like, I'd also like to point out that Kathryn is just made that voice out of a choice, and they kept it. Like, they didn't alter her voice when she puts that gruff sort of voice on. That's her voice. Like, she chose to put on a weird voice, like, and they're like, she's like, I'll try it because I know a lot about the making of this, and she just they just kept it. Like, it's not her voice augmented; it's her just like making a bold choice as an actor, and they're like, we're gonna go with this, like, keep it. Like, isn't that genius?
The thing, like, I heard like an idiom or like a statement once where like, if the kid actor is good in a horror movie, then the horror movie is going to be good, because a lot of times kid actors are not the greatest. But the fact that she made that decision, because I was watching this and I literally went to IMDb like, okay, who's doing the voice of the demon, the monster? And I was like, is there someone else in there? Because it's very subtle the way she sort of like flits back and forth between her regular voice and then the creature voice kind of creeping through, and it gets more and more pronounced as the episodes go on. And I'm just like, this is a very smart thing. And so to hear that it was a character choice is just like, what a brilliant actress. And the fact that she's now a dance instructor, like out of acting, and is a dance instructor. That's wild.
Put her on the convention circuit. Like, have her tour.
Yeah, seriously.
Give us your autograph. I'll pay money. She also was in an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark as well.
Oh, was she really?
After this, where she's like a little older. But God, I think she's so good. And I think that's really what I like really connected with, and like me being such like a Goosebumps expert and apologist, just like all over it. I was like, when she showed up, I'm like, that's not the character description. She's supposed to have brown hair and like be really, really like, and I'm like, that's dark blonde. That's not right. And being sold as a little kid to be like, no, this is Carly Beth. Like, this is the girl. Like, this is the actor that, like, they get so lucky. And they in Goosebumps, the TV series, they reuse a lot of the same actors. They use Sabrina as well, because I don't think it's probably not easy to find kids that can carry an hour or 30 minutes convincingly. So like, hold on for dear life. I mean, Ryan Gosling is in there. First Say Cheese and Die. Like, Hayden Christensen, Night of the Living Dummy 3, like, although he's terrible in that, but
I didn't realize he was in that in one of them. That's wild. What a breeding ground for actors,
right? Yeah, I could clearly talk about it all day.
Well, so I do have a question, because you do know a lot about the making of this. I had seen online that there was an original ending that they had to cut. Is that true, or is that like internet gossip? Do you know? Have you seen anything about that?
I haven't seen anything about that, so I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did, but I haven't heard anything about that.
There's just like, because I was doing some research today and I came across a bunch of like random things on the internet saying that there's like, and one of them that I did find said that she screams, when she sees the kid's face, and that's like where it ends. And so they thought it was a little bit too traumatizing, but I really can't find anything anywhere to like corroborate it. It's just something that people on the internet have been talking about. And so I was like, I wonder if they did.
I wonder. I mean, I would love to see the deleted scenes, but as far as I know, I think that makes sense to me. Like them cutting a scream at the end because it seemed too much, instead of having him sort of like giggle and sort of fade out. You know, I think it ended the way it probably should have.
Yeah, that would have been horrifying.
But I love the idea of Goosebumps deleted scenes that are like too hot for TV.
Too hot for TV. Yeah, I know.
Goosebumps After Dark.
Oh my God.
Like so scary.
Do we want to wrap up and give this a rating out of 5?
That sounds good.
Yeah, we do.
Fuck yeah. All right, Terry, you're up first. How many worm sandwiches out of 5 do you give? Also, wait, 1 second. Worm sandwich isn't a fucking prank. That's rude as shit. Putting a goddamn live animal in someone's food. That's not a prank. That's just being a piece of shit.
Mean.
Anyway.
Mean.
And according to RL Stine's autobiography, the actress told them that to put a real worm in there because they were originally planning to put like a fake worm in it. And the scene had to be shot 12 times. Like, she's like, no, I'm ready for it. I'll do it. That's a lot of worm sandwiches.
That's a lot of worm sandwiches. So Terry, you give it 12 worm sandwiches. Got it. Great. We got that.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. Like, it's really hard to rate this because it is a kid series. It is a little hokey in spots, but it is incredibly effective. And I just think about how the lingering presence that this book, the book, and also the show has had. And if I want to have programming for kids that is horror, because I feel like that is something that is missing. We're maybe getting some new of it, like creeping up with animation that's coming out. But like, I feel as if a lot of kids shows today are neutered when it comes to the horror aspect of it. They're just, we can't scare kids. We have to, be safer. And this is the kind of stuff that if I had a kid and I wanted to get them into horror, this is the kind of stuff I would want them. So for me, I have to give it 5 worm sandwiches just because of its importance and the fact that it does not talk down to kids, and it's entertaining. I had a good time watching it as an adult, even though it is a little hokey, but I enjoyed it. So what about you, Mary Beth?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it had a massive impact on my subconscious in more ways than one. So I don't think I'm allowed to give it any less than 5 worm sandwiches. I'll let you know what happens when I go to bed tonight and I have that fucking dream again. It's gonna come back. That fucking dream is gonna come back. But I mean, yeah, you could poke holes in this all you fucking want, but that's not fun, and that defeats the spirit of the haunted mask and of the Goosebumps show. It shaped so much of us, obviously all of us, and it's just such an important, good, smart piece of scary kids horror media, and I'm so glad that we've had that growing up and had access to things like that. And that's why we're all such weird, spooky fuckers today.
That's right.
And Daniel, you have the final word. I think I know, but how many worm sandwiches out of 5 do you give the haunted mask?
Listen, I'm gonna give it 6 worm sandwiches out of 5. Like, it is just overachiever here. It is truly foundational to everything I'm interested in as a child and as an adult. Like, it just paved the way for a lot of different things. I think it's just top tier in terms of acting, in terms of sort of props and character, and creature design. It's the right amount of cheese. It's the right amount of scare. It's the right amount of silly. It's just, it's everything that's good about the 90s and everything that's good about kid horror.
Yeah.
And it has created something that, this next Goosebumps TV series and the Goosebumps, any horror media for children has to live up to. And in some ways, even adult media has to live up to in my brain, of something that can hit all of the spots for me. Mm-hmm. And it may never do that. And if that's the truth, then how great that we have it. I will just continue to wear my Haunted Mask shirt, sleep with my Haunted Mask pillow, and paint my room jack-o'-lantern orange because Carly Beth did. And that's the literal truth. My room is painted orange because Carly Beth's walls were orange. So
no, really?
Is that mental illness? It may be, but
I love it.
I'm on board.
Whatever mental illness it is, I like it. That's fun mental illness.
So I give it max worm sandwiches. I'm gonna go have a worm sandwich for dinner just now.
Yum.
I was just gonna say,
Protein.
we need to get Kathryn Long on the phone because we have 16 worm sandwiches for her. Like, she could do that in 16 takes, right?
I'm sure she can. She's too busy teaching dance, I'm sure. But if she wants to take a break, she has big fans out here.
She
big
really does.
Fans.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for joining us and talking about this episode of Goosebumps. Where can our listeners find you online, and what do you have that you can plug and talk about?
Yeah, so you can find me. My easiest way to find me is literally Instagram. I'm Daniel X Montgomery on Instagram, or just Daniel Montgomery on Twitter or X or whatever's happening over there. Let's not even worry about it. Just say hey to me on Instagram. I have a Goosebumps podcast, y'all. With my twin brother.
Really?
Yes!
I do.
Tell us everything.
It's called Welcome to Deadcast, and my brother and I go through every book and every TV episode. And we've gone through the first 62. We are through the first almost 10 of Give Yourself Goosebumps, and we are reviewing we've reviewed the movies, and we're going to be reviewing the new TV series. So if you're not absolutely annoyed with me talking about Goosebumps at this point, too bad, and give that a listen. And you can say hey to both my brother and I there. That's an easy way to get in touch. But you can also actually see my whole body and blue hair if you rent or download the Jessica Cabin. It's available anywhere you can get movies. It's available on Apple TV, on Amazon, at Walmart.com, at BestBuy.com, just anywhere. YouTube. Give it a watch. I think you'll really enjoy it. And I will say on the last little note that at a Q&A after a film festival, somebody commented that they felt that the music sounded like the music in the Jessica Cabin sounded like adult Goosebumps, and I thought, my work here is done.
Drop.
Wow. Wow.
That's amazing.
I was like, highest praise I could ever hear from you personally.
Well,
I shared it with
I've peaked now, everybody.
It really was our composer, Maxton Waller, who is absolutely incredible. But the fact that I got to have a hand in creating something that somebody would call adult Goosebumps. Honey, my work is done.
Hell yeah.
That's fantastic.
Listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. What was your experience with the haunted mask? Did it haunt your dreams like it did mine? Let us know by sending us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on the social media. I am at MB McAndrews on Twitter and Blue Sky, and I'm at MB.McAndrews on Instagram.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful anywhere there is a social media, for as long as there's going to be one.
And then, of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on all of the social medias. On Twitter and Blue Sky, we are at Scarred Podcast. And on Instagram, we are at Scarred for Life Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And if you want to help support us, we do have a Patreon.
Ooh! Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please stay safe out there. But most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.